Then I took a smidge and applied it down there.
This one's wife. She's buying followers. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Social media has been around for a couple of decades now. With it, you gain followers, subscribers, you have people that comment upon the work that you create, people liking it, sometimes disliking it. The major platforms such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube are ones where many people look to cultivate an audience. In some instances, there are those who were early adopters that got in at the infancy of these platforms and created content and made a name for themselves. They were unheard of individuals, Joe and Jane Ordinaries, that perhaps had a particular knack for creating humorous skits. Or it might be that they commented upon gaming, for example. There are certain YouTubers that are known within certain age groups, those outside of them scratching their heads and saying, I've never heard of them, but within certain demographics, the individuals are hugely popular. Indeed, there are people who hadn't followed the formal route of perhaps becoming an actor or a celebrity through being a reality TV star or being involved in sports or academia, and they basically became a YouTube personality that then bled into the mainstream. Jake Paul being a good example of that. The creation and cultivation of followers and an audience requires effort. There are others, of course, who were already established outside of social media. For example, somebody who's a well-known footballer who has, of course, gained their prominence as a consequence of playing for a top-flight team, which is then reported on in the press and across other social media, so that when they create their own profile on, say, Instagram, they get hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of followers because they're already well-known in the real world. Pop stars and rock stars are a good example of this, that having started off either going around various small venues, cultivating a real world following, they then came to the attention of a record label or some marketing outfit, which has then enabled them to be propelled into the mainstream. And then, having obtained millions of followers, of fans, they then joined social media, immediately transferring their real-world presence into that of the virtual world. And thus those individuals garner billions of views on YouTube, having millions of subscribers. For others, it's a slog. There needs to be a repeated output of decent content, which is suitably marketed, and there is steady growth of a person's channel until perhaps they hit that hockey stick moment and it really takes off. And then there are those that seek to cheat. There are lots of different ways that one could go about growing a channel. Of course, there are YouTube channels dedicating to telling you how to grow your channel, individuals that look to be giving you the inside track or selling you courses on how to do it. There's no substitute, of course, for the provision of decent content, looking to advertise it in other places, and engagement with your audience, and being consistent in the application of your material so that people know what they're getting and look forward to it, and that they feel that they have an engagement with the content provider. Thus, there are individuals who have worked hard to cultivate an audience and then are able to do certain sponsorships and tie up with products, becoming the face of a particular cosmetic line or being associated with a particular energy drink, which adds to it all. They put in the hard yards. And of course, for every supposed overnight sensation, there's invariably either many years of slog, the slow burn of building an audience, or the involvement of a big machine that has all of the contacts, the advertising and the publicists, so that somebody who is genuinely talented but has a small audience is suddenly catapulted into the big time. Thus, those are two of the main routes to which people achieve a substantial following. Now, this one's wife is internationally famous. She's known around the world. I think that it would be quite difficult to find some people who'd never even heard of her. Most people have, although many of those people will say, yes, I know about her, but I have no interest in her. Whereas many others would be, oh, I know who she is and I don't like her. And then there's the smaller group, as mentioned, of those who know her and like her. And this is where the problem comes in for this one's wife. She's afforded free publicity on a daily basis as a consequence of mainstream media commenting on all of the things that she does, whether it's walking across a car park, having an anti-stress patch on her wrist, walking in front of Harry, wearing certain clothing, either praised in certain outlets or criticised in others. She's reported on regularly because those media outlets know that there are millions of people who want to read about her and hear about her, not necessarily because they like her, but because they still want to know what she's doing, either for the purpose of criticism or ridicule. Thus, she gains instant recognition, and she gains publicity that many other people would give their eye teeth for in order to have the visibility that she has. The major problem that this one's wife has is that she's largely disliked, and therefore she struggles to translate that visibility into something that's tangible and useful. Yes, for the purpose of the narcissist, it allows her to draw fuel from lots of people, much of it, though, challenge fuel, although she deals with that threat to control ultimately. It doesn't necessarily help with her facade management, because many of these people are critical of her, and indeed subject her to a forensic examination of her actions, or the various fact-checkers that are waiting out there. Furthermore, it doesn't now lend itself to monetization, a big residual benefit for her. It once did. In the early days, fresh from the royal family and well known, and although she had her detractors, there weren't as many as there are now, brands and outlets such as Spotify and Netflix thought, she's well known, she's been in the royal family, she's going to have lots to say about it, let's sign her up and throw a lot of money in her direction. As we have watched, she's lazy, she doesn't really have anything of interest to say, she's not prepared to work hard, and she capitalises off others with a sense of entitlement that she should just be paid because it's her. Over time, the repeated victim narrative and the something-for-nothing approach, combined with the criticisms of the royal family, have not gone down well, resulting in there being a dearth of sponsorship and brand partnerships and an increasing number of people who simply want to see her train wreck arrive at its final destination. Someone as internationally famous as her shouldn't have any difficulty whatsoever pulling in followers. She should have millions. But she does have a difficulty because there's actually a lot of people who, whilst they want to see her fail, have no interest in contributing to her success, have no interest in following her or subscribing. And it would appear that she is aware of this deficiency and has sought to cheat her way through it. Information that's been sent to me, which consists of screenshots that have been taken from YouTube, show that somebody has clearly utilised some form of software to assess the number of accounts that she has. And it would appear that on Instagram, it would be the case that she must have had somewhere in the region of 347,000 followers or subscribers. But when this person has applied the appropriate software, it shows that there are only 173,000 real subscribers, which means that she has over 174,000 fake accounts that are actually following her. Basically, half of her followers aren't genuine. Somebody has made this observation, presumably beneath a video about this instance, and this has prompted an exchange where someone observes, of course she bought all of her followers. And then somebody else adds, I was the first to comment about this yesterday because her account went from 5,000 to 187,000, which of course is an astronomical leap. Now, naturally, as I mentioned, she is internationally famous, and therefore if she opens up some new account, you would expect there to be a lot of people going to it. But nevertheless, that is a hell of a jump. Apparently, according to the individual who wrote on YouTube, a jump of that amount is exactly costing $10,000. Basically, you can get as many followers as you want, but you have to pay. That individual says, I don't think anybody believed me when I brought this up yesterday. Thus, if this information is credible, and there's no reason to suggest that it's not, she's been buying followers. And as you'll see from the third screenshot that has been sent to me, that the analysis of her accounts shows no real followers and 174,000 inactive followers. Well, ouch indeed, as the person commenting has stated. This, of course, is typical behaviour of a narcissist, to make themselves look better than they actually are. Now, of course, there are people who are not narcissists that may buy accounts, but we know she is one, and therefore we know that she might well engage in this behaviour as a consequence of her need to be seen, her need to be seen as successful, her need to be able to boast, to say, look at how many followers I've got. But once again, we see another cracking example of the collateral consequences at work for this one's wife. Rather than thinking to herself, there's lots of people out there who don't like me, therefore they're going to be scrutinising my every move. I need to box clever here. They might be able to find out if I've been purchasing false subscribers, false followers, fake followers. So is it something I really ought to do? Should I actually instead put some effort into growing them organically? After all, I am well known, so it shouldn't take too long. Of course, a combination of her not being too bright and the demands of her narcissism, her sense of entitlement, a lack of accountability, basically says, you need to make yourself look good as quickly as you possibly can. Therefore, any risk associated with this is not going to be considered in the slightest. Go for it. And thus, occasioned by her style of narcissism, she arranges for, it would appear, according to this information, followers to be purchased so that it makes her look like she's got more than she actually has. And she doesn't take into account, of course, that everything that she does, there's a waiting army of individuals ready to scrutinise, discuss, analyse and check what she's doing to ascertain the provenance or otherwise of her actions. And she's fallen foul of this once again. Thus we see plenty of her narcissism in action. 1. The sense of entitlement to behave this way. 2. The grandiosity by exaggeration. 3. The lack of accountability, of not growing an audience organically, but cheating to acquire it. 4. The high-handedness, whereby she doesn't think about the consequences of it. 5. The collateral consequences rule that is so applicable to her. And thus she gets caught out once again. And if this information is accurate, and as I say, one has no reason to think that it isn't accurate, it shows that she has been involved in massaging quite rather heavily to make herself look like she's followed by more people. This demonstrates, again, how she's nowhere near as popular as she would like to be, that she has to cheat to try and maintain this popularity, and she's been caught out once again. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.